Dale Pulte of Van Nuys, California, and Ron Colson of Addison, Illinois, as they come to the line for the finals in the funny car competition. They've made it through all the preliminaries. Between $10,000 and $12,000 at stake in this one. Pulte, a youngster from Van Nuys, California, who we said got his start street racing. Colson, a rather scientific type from Illinois, has everything figured out. Both of these cars have had a little bit of trouble in the preliminaries, but they have been repaired. It looks like two Darth Vaders going at it as they come to the line, critically moving to the position. The two top lights showing their pre-stage, and when the two yellow lights light below that, the fuse will be lit. One in, the other, and they're off. Up, and Colson has trouble. He crosses the line, and Pulte takes it down to win at 6.258 seconds. A tough break, but he'll take it any way he can get it. His speed, 238.72 miles an hour, as he heads for the welcoming crew at the end of the run. Tough break for Colson. Let's see what happened here. Apparently the car mishandled, and he crossed that center line, and that's an automatic disqualification. A long way to come for that type of finish. So Dale Pulte, the Van Nuys, California boy, gets the big welcome from the crew. Let's listen. There's nothing like winning, and that's what's on the mind of Miss Shirley Muldowney and Mr. Connie Kalita as they prep for the matchup of the meet. And we'll be back for that.
Chris Economaki at Pomona, California for the running of the 21st Winternational Drag Races. The funny car final coming up, starring the Blue Max with Raymond Beadle at the wheel. The Blue Max lost its top in the semifinal, and a new one has been taped on, riveted on, glued on, and everyone wonders whether it will stay on. Here you can see the kind of work that was done by the crew to make the car ready for this dramatic final event. His rival in the near lane, Billy Meyer of Waco, Texas, who's had his trouble with engines all day long. Each man has had more than his share of car problems in coming to the line for this dramatic confrontation on this quarter-mile drag strip at the fairground. There are 2,500 horsepower cars ready to go at the starting line. And Beadle sideways and comes back in line. A beautiful, masterly handling job by Beadle. He got his car straight, but he loses to Meyer. And Meyer wins the Winternational Funny Car Championship. 6.529 seconds, 206 miles an hour. And Beadle coast to a stop. His route did stay on. His speed at the end of the run, 236, 30 miles an hour faster than Meyer, who stops his smoking car alongside. A dramatic finish to an exciting day for these two gentlemen. Meyer's engine in serious trouble there. The fans just love it. The crew comes down. They're going to have to fix that car, but they could care less. Hey, what a day. You won it, Billy. Congratulations.
An expensive win.
What's all that smoke about?
We killed that motor, too. It was on about 7 cylinders the whole time. I don't know what happened to him.
It wasn't a very straight line run for you, was it?
No, if he had had any luck at all, he should have been able to beat us. He ran very well all day.
Yeah. You're huffing and puffing, Billy.
I'm tired, Chris. That's 4 motors to do that.
4 motors, huh? What's that in dollars and cents, Billy?
More than we made. Just depends on how bad they are.
With Raymond Beadle and the famous Blue Max in the near lane, the challenger Al Segrini in his car in the far lane. Beadle, a 3-time world champion and one of the biggest winners in funny car racing, is the heavy favorite in this competition now, waiting for the light to go green. They rev up their engines, watching the Christmas tree. There are the lights, and it's away, and Beadle and Segrini hit the throttle at the same moment. Flame belched the exhaust, and Segrini pulls ahead to beat Beadle by the better part of a car length. A remarkable upset for the Massachusetts rider, and his crew is extremely happy. His speed, 238.09 miles an hour, 6.262 seconds in beating the man from Dallas. And so Al Segrini, who waited almost 8 years for this victory, is about to be overwhelmed by his happy crew.
The funny car drivers are being fitted into their cars for their final, which will match Tom Anderson against Frank Hawley. A little while ago, Sam Posey was able to ask Frank Hawley about his mental preparation for the final, the 6 seconds or less in which he becomes a champion or a runner-up.
I usually feel pretty relaxed in the car, and for something particular like this final round, I'll have to make a concerted effort to fire myself up for it.
So we'll see now if Hawley has been able to fire himself up to the necessary level. That is Hawley in the brown car and Tom Anderson in the yellow and white.
Hawley and his whole team have an approach of consistency. Every run they lay down is almost the same, and what it means is that their competitors, Jim, sometimes feel they have to almost overreach themselves in order to beat Hawley. The pressure is more on the competitor than on Hawley.
Anderson gets the jump at the start, but now they seem to be even in the middle of the track, and Frank Hawley pulls away to win at the end. So Frank Hawley, who had been the #2 qualifier in the division, beats the #1 qualifier, Tom Anderson, to win the race.
Well, one of the appeals of drag racing is the unequivocal winning and losing, especially in a complicated world like ours. But in this race, there's a real seesaw battle that gives great excitement as Anderson gets the start, but now Hawley comes on in the middle part of the run and literally powers past him. Frank Hawley, the winner, and by a very, very small margin. Frank, it was a... No, it sure wasn't. How did the run go for you?
I think it run about as good as it's run all day. I don't know exactly what it run. I saw that yellow and white car for a long time, and then down near the end, his car hasn't been falling off, but we just kind of snuck around him.
Tom, come in here.
Racer, boy.
Tom Anderson, it was an awfully close match you two guys just gave us.
Sure was.
What was your version of how it ended? It was awfully close there.
Well, what happened was we've been hurting this engine all day, okay? And I richened it up, a little bit too much, and when we got down towards the end, he just outpowered me.
Thank you. You richened it just enough.
It's Tim Gross against Al Segrini in the finals of the funny car. We talked to both of them about their strategy for this race.
We're not trying to overpower the track. A lot of the bigger guys, I think they're trying to get the big numbers like during qualifying. We've decided to let's stick with something like low 590 passes, and we can win this race. If we overpower the racetrack, we're going to be all over the track also.
As long as I can stick it in high gear without smoking the tires, we'll win a drag race.
Two different opinions, but there's only going to be one winner. As we take a look at Tim Gross. Al Segrini won this race in 1982. Going to try to repeat in 1984. Tim Gross for his second time in the finals. As they line up, there they go! Al Segrini gets the jump on Tim Gross right from the start, and looks like he's in a ball of fire. His blower's gone already. He's won the race in 5.96, but look at his car bounce around, completely out of control. There he is. Keep coming, keep coming. All right, all right. Oh, man, what a tough victory. What a tough way to win. I guess it's all worth it. We take a look back as the fire shoots from the side of those cars. Al Segrini, the victor. Close to the finish line, his car bursts in the flames. What a tough way to win.
I've been driving now, I'll say 10 years professionally, and this is my first fire, and I'm telling you, when the guys say it gets hot in there, it gets hot in there, I'm telling you. But boy, I think everything's okay. I mean, it's a shame we did this, but we didn't want to end like this, but we're in the winner's circle. We're starting 84 off good.
Now, let's go to the funny car final, Steve.
Yes, Al Segrini. Can he make it 2 in a row? Driving for Joe Paisano, who has fielded drag racing cars at many times over the years, given a lot of young drivers their first chance. Dale Foley, we've told that story. He won this race in 1980. He started out very, very young, at the age of 19.
Well, Steve, let's not forget that these two guys got into the finals in highly contrasting styles. Al Segrini put away Rick Johnson in a surprise upset. Johnson, of course, having the fastest car in the place, the fastest funny car in the world, for that matter. On the other hand, Dale Foley, he was fortunate enough to run up against Ed McCullough, who red-lighted. Back in the pit, Steve talked to Dale about the upcoming race.
Segrini is a tiger at this race. He won it last year. He'll go to the starting line and throw everything they've got at you.
He will, and Uncle Joe Paisano is probably one of the best guys to drive for. I think if I had to drive for anybody, I'd like to drive for him. And Segrini's got a real good ride, and he's a good driver. It's going to be a good race.
You know, thinking back over some past finals, this track, especially as it cools off in the late afternoon, tends to not be quite as good. You got to be careful.
I think it's going to be anybody's guess up here for the final round. If we can get up there before the sun goes away, we could have a pretty good race. It's going to be tough in the final deal.
See you there.
I hope so.
So the sun is settling down here at Pomona. You can start to see the nitro flames coming out of those headers on Dale Pulley's car in the near lane.
1,800 pounds of fiberglass and steel in each lane. Two-speed transmission, a beautiful start. But look at Al Segrini. He's headed for 2 in a row. Al Segrini explodes. Segrini coming over in Pulley's lane. Pulley drives away from him. It looks like the 4th of July in Al Segrini's lane. For the 2nd consecutive year, he wins the Winternationals in a ball of fire. And here he comes like a jack-in-the-box.
Out he pops, and that's exactly what the NHRA requires that escape hatch for, as one of the safety safari crew comes over to see if Segrini is all right. He apparently is. He is a winner here at the Winternationals. He got his car owner the Oscar that he had hoped for.
I think right now Al Segrini is thinking more about the 2 of these drivers being okay than he is about any victory. That may not have sunk in yet, but boy, did the crowd roar when they saw Al Segrini come out of that car unharmed.
Let's look at it one more time. Segrini does have the race in hand, actually, before the big explosion. As you can see, there he goes into the lights, and a giant shower of sparks. It looks as if an engine goes, but in fact, it is probably a clutch that explodes in that automobile that catches partly it sparks some fiberglass explosion. But the entire cockpit fills with fire. Fortunately, the driver is encased in a fire suit that saved his life.
So for the 2nd year in a row, a flaming final round victory, Al Segrini.
Well, it's getting crazy, isn't it? Huh? Same as last year, repeat. You know, we had problems just before we pushed out with the clutch. And I said to Joe, something wrong in the bell housing. I did the burnout when I stayed. I had trouble getting the reverse. I knew it was dead. I said, well, I'm going to have to gamble. And I pedaled her one time and got back in it. And then just for the lights there, it went again. This is getting crazy.
I know how badly you wanted to win for Joe Paisano. You have done that, my friend. You got awfully close to Pulley. Was there any contact there?
No, I seen his fender. See, I was on fire there. I couldn't see. And then out of the car, I seen his red fender. That's why I went back over to my lane.
All right, let's clear this area. We got more cars coming down. Congratulations again.
Thanks, Steve.
At the starting line, it's dark. You've heard of dancing in the dark? We call this racing in the dark. This is Tim Gross. He has got the favorite role coming into the finals. He had a 5.61 second elapsed time in the semifinals when he defeated the favorite, the pre-race favorite and low qualifier, Kenny Bernstein. John Force won his race when Dale Pulley smoked the tires off the starting line. But Force has yet to be able to develop those 5.60 elapsed times that have become so prevalent during competition at this Winternationals. His run in the semifinals netted him only a 5.75 second elapsed time. And here in the finals, with Gross having lane choice, that puts Force in the lane nearest the camera. And that's the lane that has been causing traction problems for the funny cars throughout the late afternoon hours. The darkening skies providing a brilliant light show for this huge crowd still on hand here at the LA County Fairgrounds as those header flames stand tall alongside these race cars. Some problems maybe for Tim Gross, the starting line official holding him back. Barbara Hogan, his crew chief, also saying don't move that car. Back at the back of the car, they're working on something. It could be either the wheelie bars, it could be reattaching the parachute shroud lines. It's very difficult to tell. One of the problems is it has gotten so dark it is difficult for our cameras to tell exactly what's going on. But apparently everything's okay. The crew members out from underneath the car. The starting line official goes back, checks it. He says, okay, bring it to the starting line. Tim Gross cleans the engine out. John Force has been waiting. The darkening skies adding even more pressure to these two drivers. Force trying to win his first ever major NHRA championship victory. Gross is going for his second. He won his first only last season. The lights across the starting line highlighting the polished wheels, the works of art that have become funny cars in NHRA championship drag racing competition. A slow staging process. They both make that final move forward. It's a good start. Gross is out in front. Force in hot pursuit. At the finish line, Gross shuts it off early but wins the race. Tim Gross wins it has his speed, only 236 miles an hour. Then Tim Gross holds on to the finish line and wins the race. In replay, you can see the flames coming out of the headers. Watch them on Tim Gross's car. It will show you exactly how early he shuts that motor off. It happens right there before the first timing light. Tim Gross wins.
Tim Gross wins his second NHRA National Event title, but this time, unlike the last time, the engine's all together, you're not on fire, everything's perfect.
This is probably one of the most exciting moments of my life, but yeah, what a distraction. I staged the car up and my goggles were totally fogged. I left the starting line, and while I know this probably isn't kosher for the rules and all that, I had to rip my goggles off my face before I could shift it so I could see where I was going.
Desperate men do desperate things.
And then when I got near the lights, of course, there was so much flying around the cockpit and all that clutch dust, I had problems seeing, and I heard him go by me, and I didn't know if I was at the finish line or what. But I guess we won her, though.
Up on one side, the flag of Australia. If you come across to the other side, Kenny Bernstein has the United States flag. It's a battle of the countries in the funny cars. Let's watch.
The first ever international final in NHRA funny car history. I don't know where Bernstein and crew found time to find the flag, but somehow they did. Bernstein is first to heat up the tires.
But Steve Evans down here at the starting line. Graham Cowan's engine sounds a little ragged, and his crew is definitely concerned about it. So we have to keep an eye on that machine. Something could be wrong in the engine compartment on Graham Cowan's car as he now begins to back up. At the far end, Butch Leal congratulates Warren Johnson, who is a definite challenger for the world title this year. The championship round for funny car at the NHRA Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals. Graham Cowan's car definitely running ragged as he comes to the line facing Kenny Bernstein.
Now look at how clean the exhaust pipes are firing on Kenny Bernstein's car. Unlike Graham Cowan, he is throwing raw fuel into the atmosphere, definitely not firing properly on all 8 cylinders as they move up to stage.
Both cars up to the line now. Bernstein the far side, Cowan the near side. America's Cup of Drag Racing as Cowan sits ready in the cockpit. There's the amber light. They're running, and Kenny Bernstein grabs the whole shot. And an explosion in Cowan's car. Fire continues to burn. Kenny Bernstein comes across the line, the winner of 5:49.264. Let's check, though, Graham Cowan to make sure he's all right as the car rolls slowly to a stop. A tremendous engine explosion. Kenny Bernstein came off the line first, making horsepower, and then suddenly, kaboom, away went the engine in Cowan's car. Apparently, a valve will pull down, allowing fire to get back up into the induction system, and that causes the explosion. Tremendous fire. Fortunately, the safety equipment is excellent. Let's go to the far end to meet the new champion, Kenny Bernstein.
Kenny Bernstein begins his march towards what could be a 3rd World Championship in funny car drag racing. What a way to start a season, huh?
Well, it's super, Steve. You bet. Anytime you can win one of these things, as hard as it is with all the other cars and competitors, it's tough to do it. But today, Dale Armstrong and the crew did a superb job, and just glad to be here.
Stars and Stripes triumphant again as Kenny Bernstein wins his first Winternationals. Now let's go to Steve with the runner-up.
Graham, I know how disappointed you must be, especially looking at all those destroyed parts, but more than not winning this title.
Yeah, I'm disappointed, but it wasn't a tune-up. Somebody put a line on the wrong valve, and the thing leaned out, you know, so it's just an error in the pits. I know that the tune-up's okay, but it's too late now.
Well, on behalf of everybody here and the thousands of people in the grandstands, thanks for just a tremendous day of racing. You had an awful lot of people on your side.
Yeah, so one good thing about it, we get runner-up money to cover the expense anyway, so we'll be back again.
Indeed.
So now the spotlight falls on the funny car final here in the NHRA Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals at Pomona. Poldy against Head. Earlier, Steve Evans took a closer look at the Dale Poldy operation.
As always, there's big crowds around the cars getting ready for the finals here at the Winternationals. That's not unusual. It is unusual, however, when the crowd is working on the car. The machine driven by Dale Poldy is crewed by the Over the Hill gang from the nearby San Gabriel Valley. There are 18 members of the team that help Bill Schultz run this funny car, and they could just do about anything they have to. You can see counting heads here. There's at least 18 working on the car. But you know, the Over the Hill gang, we may have to change that, because after all, when you go over the hill, don't you start picking up speed?
Well, what Poldy may need at this time is a little good fortune of his own, because the man he's facing in the finals, Jim Head, has had certainly his share. First, the explosion and fire that Shoemake encountered, then Tuttle, then Oswald, both losing traction. As a result, Head now in the finals against Poldy. Now, with one champion crowned, we're about to crown another. Will it be Poldy or Head? Don Garlitz?
We were over in Jim Head's pit earlier, and he had no damage whatsoever. So I think this is going to be a heads-up race, especially this time of the day.
So a couple of long shot contenders in their moment of glory off the line. Both have traction problems. Near lane, however, is Poldy. And despite the fact that he was smoking heavily away from the line, he has the win. The Pomona Winternationals champion, Dale Poldy, 6:02 only for 2:23. He could care less at this point. A happy, jubilant crew at the starting line.
As the cars get off the starting line, they move pretty good initially, but the old cold Pomona track started to give a little bit of problem as the tires began to break loose. And it was Dale Poldy's experience that caused him to get off the throttle just enough to let the tires catch up so he could win the Winter Nationals.
The kind of prize money the over-the-hill gang will deposit will really influence their racing. Maybe they can go somewhere.
I hope so. So far, it's just going to be 4, maybe 6 races and stuff. But to these guys, you know, it is like winning the U.S. Nationals to them. This car, until about a year ago, never went past the first round. Now we won a race finally. We've been in the semifinals a couple times. It's great.
And to keep pace with the touring pros, not keep pace, but to beat them. What an accomplishment for all. You're going to need a bus to haul these guys around if you tour this car.
That's the gang. That's the gang.
Congratulations again to all of you, Dale, and great driving.
Thank you very much.
Dale Poldy, the Winter Nationals champion. Boy, did he earn this one.
And that jubilant crew catching up with their driver now in the cooled-out area. Here they are, and let the celebration in Southern California begin for Dale Poldy and company.
And, Gary, that's the first time those two ever raced in a final. Not so with our Funny Car finalists. They met 4 times last year alone in final round. Well, you remember, Gary, Kenny Bernstein set up to round number 2, that if the final run is run after the sun goes down, it'll be a whole nother racetrack. What kind of racetrack? Is it better? Is it worse? We're about to find out. Bernstein had lane choice, selected the same lane in which Gary Ormsby won Top Fuel. He has put Bruce Larson on the far lane. Bernstein was away first, but immediately lost traction, and there goes Bruce Larson to his 2nd ever NHRA career victory. An outstanding performance today. Down on the starting line with Maynard Yank, his crew chief, is Gary.
Maynard, let me get a word with you here. Listen, this has got to be one of the great experiences anytime you beat the defending world champion.
Oh, it's nice to come out and win the first race of the year, and it couldn't come for any more reward for this team. We changed 4 motors. We got 1 head left. That's what we have to our name that's healthy. And these guys, Ken, Joe, Don Militex, Randy Fisher, they worked really hard, and they deserve a lot of credit. Tim Richards and the Amato crew helped us out a lot, too, today.
How apprehensive were you going to the final round?
Well, we were on a pretty good thrash, and we broke our routine. We skipped a lot of steps just to make it up here on time. I'm glad Kenny smoked his tires.
We'll celebrate.
Thank you.
How much pressure are these guys under? Well, 3 motors, 4 motors, it's irrelevant now. The celebration is underway. A championship in the Winter Nationals for Bruce Larson. Steve?
Well, some might call it an upset. Kenny Bernstein defeated in the final round, but by the quickest car of the entire event. You earned this one big time.
How big?
You don't care about the laps time in the final 560s, sure. But your 532s, they were the backbreakers.
It felt great. It felt great all weekend. We were just having trouble with burning the motor down, but it felt good. And, you know, I've got to thank my crew. I got to thank the Amato crew. They helped me out in a lot of pinches. And, you know, Century Gauges put me here. All the good guys, you know, we really needed them.
Were you nervous on the starting line?
No. No, I've sat there beside him before, and you just kind of grit your teeth and say you're going to get him.
Congratulations. A big win for you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Bruce Larson, the true champion today.